Welcome to this very special edition of the Author's Voice with KJ, a show where we explore the stories behind the stories. Here we dive into the worlds created by authors, discover their inspirations, and ensure that you walk away enriched and inspired. And today we have with us author Kevin Cottam, a master storyteller. He has trekked deserts with Bedouins. He's wandered mountains, as he said, with Mongolian nomads and listened to the heartbeat of wisdom from ancient tribes. And he's learned a lot, and we'll learn from him about all that. And latest, we'll talk about his book, The Nomadic Mindset. And it's a transformative force for what he says, how we will survive and thrive in a world that refuses to stand still. So let's talk about his latest book. His book, The Nomadic Mindset, never settle for too long. Let's dive into the story behind the story. Welcome to the show, Kevin.
Hey, thanks, KAJ. It's really great to be here again with you. I really appreciate it, and I'm really grateful to speak about the book. I mean, this is something that, because it was published in 2019, I sell it, but I don't necessarily speak about it anymore. And so I think it's a great thing to do. Anyway, I think one of the things it's important here is to know, for a speaker or for people that want to write, is that, sometimes we have an idea of what we want to write about. Sometimes we don't have an idea, but we sort of feel. When I started writing in my first book, I knew that there was a book inside of me, but I didn't know what the book was. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to let it wait until it appears. And that appeared one day, the first book. And so I created that, and it was called Aha Mother's Pearls. And I believe that there are seeds of opportunity, signs that allow us, that trigger us to find a book and an idea and a thought, like in almost anything, in any creative idea. And so what happened was, for myself, is that I was really looking for a speaking topic. I was bored with what I was doing. I was very bored with speaking and my topics. I was bored with my teaching and my training and things like that. So I was looking, and I got a mentor. My mentor was Frederick Heron, a speaker's mentor. So I went to him to figure out what would be the theme. He does this coaching, which is discover your inner theme. So I was looking at what is that, my inner theme. And he said, I'm really curious what you say about what is a global nomad. And I said, oh, well, then he started to look up what the meaning of nomad was. And so we discussed it on a variety of ways. And within an hour, we had not only the theme of what the book would be, but my speech would be, but also we understood that I needed to do a lot of research. Well, that was really a scary thing for me in the sense of research, because I'd never really done a lot of research. So what happened was, in that conversation, he said, well, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need credibility on this subject. And what was the subject? And the subject was around nomads, but what was that in that? And he said, you're going to need to visit and spend time with minimum three nomadic cultures or tribes, as you might want to call them. And then you also have to, because it's a leadership book, you need to spend and have interviews with at least 100 leaders in different capacities, different levels, different industries. And so that is what I did. But it wasn't an easy start. So what happened is that we would have conversations around what would this book be, how we would go about it, and all sorts of things. And he got very, very excited. I got excited until one day, after a month, he said, you don't believe me that this is a good subject, do you? He said, I speak around the world, and this subject I have never, ever heard of. And I went, oh, yeah, okay. And he said, but you don't believe me, do you? I said, yeah, I do, in a very probably disbelieving tone. And he said, listen, okay, this is the deal. If you don't do this within a year, I'm doing it because I think it's a great subject. And instantly it shifted in me. I said, no. I do. I'm going at it. So within 3 weeks, I had already organized doing the research, started to do the research with a variety. I started reaching out to a variety of leaders and started to spend time with them doing research and looking at what is the nomadic mindset, what are the qualities and the behaviors for this. And then also I started to look and I said, okay, this is actually very narrow. I need to expand what I'm thinking about with mindset. And so what happened was that I learned that there was three main broad-minded and broad scope mindsets, and they are the nomadic mindset, builder mindset, and settler mindset. And within that, this is what's within the book. But the main focus is around the nomadic mindset because this is the one that is most unusual today. And also it is one that is most important today. That I have realized from my research on a lot of dynamic polls with my speaking and so forth. But how did the book start? Okay, so I had to do research. It took me a year for research. And then it took me research for a year, and then writing took a year. And then, so it was really a 2.5 year before it was actually launched. And that took quite a time, and it was very expensive because I self-published. And I chose to do it this way. But in the crafting of it, it was really about research. So I come to the point here of, sometimes things just fall into place. And then it is right. So what I did was I had a coaching client in Nairobi. And after one of our sessions, I said, I'm wanting to come to Kenya because I'm very interested in the Maasai. And she says, oh, yes, that's great. I'm doing some research for a book that I would like to write. And she said, oh, I can organize it all. I have done work with the Maasai, and so I can set it all up. And I went, oh, my God. Wow, that's incredible. And then I had another coaching client who was in Morocco, and I said to him, I'm a same story. And I said, I'm looking to discover a little bit more about the Berber tradition, which is a very important tradition in Morocco and across the Maghreb. And Berbers came from from Arabia and across. And so I talked to him and he said, oh, yeah, I can help you out because a very good friend of ours, he's an anthropologist and his specialty is in Berber culture. He used to live and be with the Berbers and also speaks the language. He'll be able to help you. So I thought, oh my God, that's 2 out of 3. And then eventually through Frederick, my mentor, I was able to get the Mongolia. And that happened just also by happenstance, So it was really quite incredible. And so I went off and did my journeys, and that was amazing to explore in Morocco with him, and then also spend time with the Maasai in the Masai Mara, and then also with the Berbers in southern Morocco in the Sahara. I never thought that I would ever do something like this. This is like beyond my scope of even thinking. And so it was really fascinating, but it was difficult to compile because I had never really compiled something like this, right? So I had research on ancient wisdom, and I also had then also contemporary leadership and from a variety of different organizations and companies and public and private sector leaders. And so how do I put this all together? I had so much information. And I realized that when I started to craft the book, which took a lot of time to put all of that, to disseminate the research. And then I decided, okay, I had planned it. Now, for me, which was interesting, because I come from a world of choreography and developing very large shows and touring shows. And I thought, well, what if I created it like a show? So in the sense of the process, why didn't I create it? So I looked at every chapter as a scene. So this is scene 1, scene 2, scene 3. And then I decided to divide it into sections. So I decided into 5 sections. And each section then became a metaphor and also a framework. And it became the 5 Ds. And the 5 Ds were direction, direction, destination, and discovery, and also a departure, and also a distillation. So all of those were in there. But it was an interesting process to align all of these different subject matters and topics for each of the chapters in this journey, because I wanted to create it as a journey, just as I used to do with shows, is to create the show for 2 hours as a journey. And so that's what I did with this. And it was not an easy task, the editing. I mean, first of all, I had the writing. And the writing was difficult because I had so much information. And so one of the things was when I first started working with a content editor, she said, "Oh my God, you've got so much, you've got too much information. You've got to get rid of stuff, rid of stuff, rid of stuff." And she said, I said, "Oh no." And she said, "You know what? It doesn't make any sense. You know, the point here is that you can't hold on to the dearest and the dearest and the dearest of what you want. Sometimes you just have to let go." And that was a big learning, was you can't hold on to everything, because people, the viewer, are not going to understand because it's way too much. And then also she said, you know, because you have a lot of research and quotes from different people are not interested in just seeing that, but your words as to how do you make sense of this. So that became an interesting part, which I never thought about before. So I was just sort of flew at the seat of my pants with this. And you know, I'm very grateful for it. It has become the base of the work that I do with speaking, with leadership journeys, my coaching. And it is what I understand today from my research, ongoing research and dynamic polls, is it's the mindset that we need to deal with all the uncertainties and the chaos and the unpredictabilities of today. And so I'm very grateful for that. But, you know, the whole thing here took, I'd say, as I said, 2.5 years, which was a lot of time. And, you know, you really have to be focused. Huh? Ooh, wow, intense focus. When you start to sit down, you need to have a real practice. It's a practice. How long am I going to sit down? When am I going to sit down? What are the hours I'm going to sit down and write? And then you can sit for hours and then something goes and nothing's coming. You get frustrated. And for myself, I would go and write in different places, coffee shops, hotel lobbies, wherever I felt I needed to have a new inspiration. And I think that was important because movement of the information, movement of yourself is really vital for the actual discovery process. And I think that discovery process is what you really have as a transformation for yourself. And when I say the discovery it's not only spiritual, it's not only mental, it's physical, it's emotional, and it's all of these aspects that you go through writing. And sometimes you leave it. I remember my first book, I left it for a year because I thought, oh my God, nobody's going to want to read this. No one's going to read it. No one's going to read it. Why am I writing it? Who am I writing this for? And so, but these are normal, traditional thinking that we go through. It is the curse of an author in many ways, but it's also the benefit and opportunity of the author, because you need to go into those spaces of that depth before you can come out. And something arises, which I think is also very extraordinary. I haven't written another book since. I've had ideas of another book, but I decided to put that off while I was really manifesting as far as business is concerned, because writing a book takes an awful lot of time away from what you are doing in your business. And I'm sure that you hear this quite often, KAJ, is that you really have to be very focused, very dedicated, very consistent, all of these attributes to be able to create a book. And then when you've done, it's like, wow, man, did I actually do this? And you know, when I read it again, I go, did you write that? You know, it's like, where did you get that information? It's like, you know, it's like an out-of-body experience that you think, my God, I could do something like that. And I think that's marvelous, you know, because you just think, wow, it's so cool. So there's much more to tell, but what would you like to ask me?
Yeah, Kevin. So I want to understand from both the individual point of view, common person's perspective, when you talk about the nomadic mindset, never settle for too long, and even from a leadership point of view, again, never settle for too long. Help us understand from both those perspectives, Kevin.
Sure. So when it first came out in that 1 hour, I said the book's name is The Nomadic Mindset. By the next day, the subtitle came, Never Settle for Too Long. And it was one of those moments. And so the book was created around the premise that we have become too narrow in our thinking. And if we don't expand in our thinking, in our processes, in our creativity, we are toast. And so that's where it came from. And so what was the mindset that we really needed to dig into? And the nomadic mindset is based in movement. What does that mean? It doesn't mean, and I want to dispel a myth here, is that people will come to me and say, I have a nomadic mindset because I love to travel. And I say, not necessarily. That's not necessarily true. I said, if you want to go and do a bus tour and it's like you get on and off and you take the picture, and I've been there, I said, that's not nomadic mindset at all. If you want to go and sit in a resort and just have an entire nice time, which is great also, that's not necessarily a nomadic mindset. Nomadic is about integration of the nature, the individuals, and the society, the culture, the food, languages. It is about bringing yourself in. So the nomadic mindset is based in movement. It is holistic in that it looks at opportunities, adaptability, uncertainties, how to manifest your potentials, its resilience, all of these wonderful attributes which are we're all needed. It also is a proponent, a keen proponent in the fact that we need to get out of our comfort zone to be able to learn, grow, expand, and explore. So in this book is that I help people to look at different aspects of what is the nomadic mindset. And in that, I share stories. I also share, so each chapter, I call them, for example, in the discovery, I talk about days, day 1, day 2, day 3. And because I wanted to make it look a little bit like a journal at the same time, is that each one covers a certain area. It might be trust, it might be change, it might be sustainability, it may be culture, it may be communication, variety of different, and also migration. And this is all about the nomadic mindset. The nomadic mindset is it's about freedom, adaptability, movement. It's all based in movement, and that we are always moving and at different tempos, different symphonies. So that's what that's about. Now, the never settle for too long is that in that aspect is looking at before. So for example, if we have an idea of a creative idea, say I want to build a new AI product, is that in the discovery process, you go through the development, you go through the manifestation of it, and it comes out as a product. And that's fine, but you can't just hold on to that one thing for too long. You need to then start having another channel, another idea, so that you can move on to something else as well. But so never settling for too long is not settling on an ongoing basis in one track. It is about finding adaptation. It's about finding a new product. It's about finding a new career. It's about finding all of this. So never settle for too long. But there is a caveat in this, is that never settle for too long means that you settle long enough to reap the harvest of what you've got. And then it's time to move on. And that is when we get comfortable, that's when we don't settle. And that's when we stop going wide and expansive, and we start becoming narrow in our thinking. So the never settling for too long helps your expansion of your thinking and your being. And that, I think, is extremely important, because once you get stuck and blocked and locked, whoa, you got to go and you got to turn the nomad on, and you got to start moving. Does that
Absolutely.
help?
Absolutely. Yes, 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 indeed, Kevin. So I want to understand who is this book for and what do you want the readers of your book, what key message to take away with them?
So, who is this book for? I believe I've written it as a leadership book. And a leadership book, I believe everybody's a leader. So, therefore, everybody will find something in it. And it may be directed for organizations, teams, and individual leaders, but I think that it's for everyone. And because there's a lot of great stories in it, and it also shares about metaphor and different you know, different aspects of curiosity, anthropological as well. So it's for those people. It is what I use this book for is a lot as a base of a lot of leadership journeys that I do with organizations, and it's also used in my coaching as well. And of course, it's most of the stories and everything is from my speeches is integrated with this as well. So it's really a calling card, as we might call. And so it's very useful for all sorts of all people. One of the things that I think that is also important here is to understand is that people who are struggling to think that they have to stick in a box, and they have, because of culture, because of family, because of education, that they get stuck into this box of who they're supposed to be, how they're supposed to act, whichever, and then they get worried, they get upset, and then they get stuck, and then they get disenchanted with life and all sorts of things. I've had many people say, my God, this is a superpower. The nomadic mind is a superpower. You have just given me my superpower because you've given me freedom. You've given me freedom to think, okay, I wasn't weird. I wasn't off. I wasn't any of these things. I actually have a voice. And I was like, wow, I'm so grateful that these types of things, these types of attitudes and thoughts come from people that have been sharing with me. So yeah, it affects people in all different ways, this nomadic mindset.
Absolutely, Kevin. So this particular book now, 2019. So anything in the pipeline, anything else that you are doing that you want people to know about, Kevin?
Well, right now, people can actually tune into, I'm doing a masterclass, and it's called the Nomadic Mindset Awakening Masterclass. It's free. It's on LinkedIn. There's 6 episodes. I'm going into the 4th episode, which is around change, and it's all based on the nomadic mindset, and it's based on the book, and as well as how to do. I relate it to teams and also organizations, but also for individuals. So it is online. You can contact me through LinkedIn, and the next one is July 2nd, and I'm happy to send you the link if you wish. It's not just for curious minds, it's also for leaders, CEOs, whoever is of interest, and also people that see that are curious, very, very curious, and also in their organizations that they need something fresh to deal with uncertainty. So I talk a lot about uncertainty. Every one of them is about uncertainty.
Absolutely. There's much to learn from you, Kevin. Much to learn from your book. What's the best way for people to connect with you?
And the best way to connect is on my LinkedIn. And it's my name, as you can see here, is Kevin Cottam. And I'm very grateful that if you want to connect and we can start a conversation. And also if you are interested in the work that we're doing and for organizations or through coaching, happy to have a phone call appointment with you as well. So that is the best way.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of The Author's Voice with KJ. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.